so many coaches that have impacted you, I guess starting with your dad, who was always the Brett Favre coach, no matter what level of football you were playing. I know it's hard to name them all, but when you think back, college and pro, who are some of the guys that had the biggest impact on you, coaches?
Curly Hallman, I think, aside from my dad, Curly Hallman was a no-nonsense, tough. I mean, he was a tough SOB now, but it was okay. I was kind of used to it. I didn't particularly like it from my dad or from Curly, but getting chewed out was just part of the. My dad prepared me. I don't know if he meant to, and I don't know if I necessarily knew it at the time, but he prepared me for those moments. Like, oh yeah, but you never chewed me out as bad as my dad. Whether I deserved it or not, I just kind of accepted it. But Curly was one of those guys that he just, he brought the best out of you, even though you didn't really know it at the time. Of course, we talked about Coach Bauer, and I mentioned Coach Allison in my speech. Just a tremendous coach, full of energy. And then actually one of the guys I didn't mention because of time was June Jones, who was my quarterback coach in Atlanta. He spent so much time with me when he had no reason to. I'd gotten demoted. Jerry didn't like me. There was no signs of me playing at all, so why June Jones would spend any extra time with me, I think it says a lot about the type of guy he was and the type of coach. He made me go out and throw, we called it buckets. He and I would have these contests trying to drop it in the bucket at 40 yards, and we watched extra film together. And then, my career in Green Bay.
Let me ask you, speaking of June, that's another example to me of your career. I mean, even though there's been a lot said and written about your year in Atlanta, good and bad, I mean, that was part of the growing up process to become the quarterback that you eventually would become.
Well, the run and shoot meant nothing to my success or lack thereof. From the offense actually was obsolete several years later. But the time I spent in Atlanta and the time I spent with June, the learning curve, not only on the field but off the field in Atlanta, was to pay off later on down the road in a lot of ways. You don't realize it at the time, but the relationships that you make, good or bad, along the way, can also shape you. And June's one of those guys that I look back and think fondly of, and believe that I learned a lot from him. And then there's other guys where it's just opposite. That my time that I spent with him means absolutely nothing. Deion Sanders is another one. My first year in Atlanta, Deion was Deion. He was playing baseball and football at that time, and Deion went over and beyond what a veteran would ever do to take care of me for whatever reason. And he and I remain close friends today. He took me and bought me clothes. He challenged me in practice to try to complete a pass on him, and he'd pay me $5 if I could ever do it. I mean, he was a great competitor on and off the field. And he was just a good teammate. And not all the guys that I played with in Atlanta were that way. And not all the guys I played with along the way throughout the rest of my career were that way, coaches included. And so guys like that, June and Deion, and there's so many others, are really few and far between, but it says a lot about the type of character they are and why they had so much success.